If you're fascinated by near-death or shared-death experiences and have ever said to yourself, I would love to encounter the same places as experiencers, this is why I've created both guided meditation albums and the extensive 5.5-day near-death experiential retreat. There's a link below that will give you all the details, and I know you will find this a profound way to explore the non-physical universe and easily access expanded states of awareness. Welcome to the Afterlife Files, where we investigate near-death experiences, shared death experiences, and how they affect you. Unlike podcasts that are just stories, we will give you a heads up on what to look for in our conversation, and then after the interview, stick around. We help you make sense of those accounts so that you can incorporate the insights into your life. I think you'll find that once having your most profound questions answered, living life in the physical is filled with more peace and joy. When I was president and executive director of the Monroe Institute, I was presented a unique opportunity. Someone found a 1983 U.S. Army intelligence report that tried to explain how the Institute's gateway process lent itself to expanded states of awareness with the use of binaural beat technology. The trouble was, page 25 was missing. When that was uncovered, and then this problem was posted on TikTok, the guessing games began. Many thought that the missing page contained the secrets of the universe. The conversation blew up on TikTok for a while. It was all people talked about. Freedom of information requests were filed. The Army didn't have page 25. The CIA didn't have page 25. People were mad at the government for withholding information. Curiously enough, those seeking page 25 never bothered to ask if the Monroe Institute had a complete document. We did. It was stored right there in our archives. We saw an opportunity. So, we researched TikTok looking for an influencer who was credible that would help us get the word out about the efficacy of our Gateway program. Stephanie Forlini was that person, and she did a great job of helping people understand they don't have to just wonder about exploring the non-physical universe. They can do it for themselves. Luckily, Stephanie is our guest today. In our interview, there are 2 points I think are extraordinary. First, the song. When Stephanie was at a low point in her life, she called out to the universe to help her. One song, Build Me Up Buttercup, repeatedly played for an hour on Pandora per her request to the universe. And you Pandora users know that just never happens. Repeated songs, never. It points out to our ability to manifest with clarity of desire and emotion. Second thing to pay attention to, confusion. When exploring unknown territory, the explorers try to make sense of what they encounter. Stephanie does a very good job of articulating how to maintain flexible in her explanations of how the universe is constructed. She's always exploring, learning, refining. I think that's the right way to approach the unknown. And now it's our turn to learn. Here's our interview with Stephanie Forlini. Stephanie, we are so glad to have you here today.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
You are most welcome. Let me read you a little bio about Stephanie. It goes like this. Stephanie Forlini is a 25-year-old, passionately curious person who withdrew from attending law school on an almost full scholarship to explore the consciousness, psychic phenomena, and the workings of reality. She is passionate about sharing information on metaphysical, and taboo subjects, linking them to their scientific counterpart, which she shares in a digestible way to her audience of 475,000 people. Let me say that again, 475,000 followers on TikTok. Congratulations. That's a huge number.
Thank you so much.
Stephanie previously collaborated with the Monroe Institute to get page 25 of the Army's document trying to describe the Gateway process released. This was done in conjunction with an interview with its then president and executive director, moi, yours truly. That's how we know each other. As a result of this interview, videos regarding this content have accumulated over 3.5 million views on TikTok. That's why Stephanie is one of the premier influencers on TikTok, and we are so glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. Beautiful intro.
So it seems like we ought to have an interview that has two parts, because I think this whole idea of being an influencer in the woo-woo section of TikTok is worth talking about. And I know that you're doing some really interesting work about parallel realities and how this is all knitted together, and we really need to talk about that. So let's start at the beginning. Influencer on TikTok. What does that mean?
So I think it has different contexts depending on the sector, I guess, if you could call it that, of what you're an influencer of. Like you mentioned, being a TikTok influencer of the woo-woo edition stuff is a little bit different than, brand influencers and stuff like that. I am essentially somebody that talks about all of these subjects on TikTok basically because I had experienced them. So it kind of just picked up that I had gained a following talking about this stuff, because I feel like it was a lot of different topics that a lot of people were interested in, or maybe even experienced, but nobody had really talked about before.
So is that how you became an influencer and left law school? I mean, what's kind of your origin story? How did you get here?
I still ask myself that sometimes.
Don't
in
we
a good
all?
way.
Yes.
Yeah, I just don't know how this all happened, I guess, but it's amazing and I love it. Let me back up, I guess. So I had essentially been experiencing metaphysical, paranormal things ever since I was a kid. And when I was a kid, nobody had answers and everybody wrote me off, because they hadn't experienced it. So I had ended up turning that off, and I had ended up very much like losing who I was to fit in with society. And then I ended up going to college. I got a degree in psychology. I got a minor in thanatology, the study of death, dying, and bereavement. And then I went to law school after that, and I really never knew what my path was. I had changed my major so many times, and I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. Nothing felt right. I was very, academically inclined, so to speak, so I could do all of these things, but it was when I was in law school and just absolutely miserable. And the universe stepped in, of course, as it does, and showed me, hey, this is not for you. And I had realized that I was not pursuing law school because it was my passion, but rather because society would think I was successful and smart for doing so. So that really kind of brought me a tower moment, so to speak, in the tarot cards. And I was very confused of what I wanted to do, what I wanted. And I ended up working a job in corporate America. I was a job recruiter, so I helped people find jobs in the legal sector. And then COVID hit, and I was unemployed because, you don't need me there helping people find jobs at that point. And then I took a step back, and I was like, well, what do I want to do? What makes me happy? Because I was so burnt out working that corporate job that wasn't fitting me. And I was really able to take a step back and kind of reconfigure everything. So at that point, I was like, well, I don't know if there's, a sector for knowledge or degrees or certificates or anything in the paranormal because I had always had these questions lingering in the back of my head since childhood. And I started looking for answers and I found a bunch of answers, and then more and more things kept happening. There's a saying, you know, when you take one step towards the paranormal, it takes two steps towards you. Um, so that definitely rang true for me. And I feel like the more and more I kept following the things that were of interest to me and, you know, trying to get answers for the things that I was experiencing, the more and more things just kept falling in my lap. So that's kind of how I got here. I'd really just started talking on TikTok. It was actually my younger cousin who got me to make a TikTok. And she had basically convinced me to, you know, just make a TikTok and download it. And I was like, well, I think it's pretty like Gen Z for all the dance trends. You know, that was my interpretation of it. And she was like, well, yeah, but there's also other sectors and stuff. So when I downloaded it and just gave it a try, the algorithm definitely corrected for my preferences. And I found out there was an entire side of TikTok dedicated to the metaphysical and taboo subjects.
So you said that you had experiences as a child and then later as an adult that kind of propelled you in this direction. Give us a couple so we have a sense of, you know, just how out there are you?
I'm definitely really out there. But I think that's good because at least I'm, you know, holding my experiences true. I definitely did a lot of not that when I was a child and pretty much just toning down what I was experiencing for the comfort of other people because, you know, I can see how these topics could make people feel uncomfortable and unsure of their reality. So as a child, I had a lot of experiences where I was waking up in parallel universes. I was astral traveling. I was slipping dimensions as a child. I was definitely seeing ghosts and energies. I was all in this world, and then I had completely shut it off because everybody else made me feel crazy for it.
So then how did you reawaken that as an adult?
So it actually had started almost like trickle effects when I was in my late teens. I had an experience where I basically like cried out to the universe for help, and I was in not like a great place in my life. I was like 19, and I had an instantaneous manifestation like occur before my eyes, like and in correspondence to a thought that I had. So it started there when I was actually an atheist at that point, which I think is hysterical at this point. And I didn't know what to make of it. I was, you know, quote unquote logical. I was, you know, whatever. I was on the scholarly track, as, you know, society would be like, good job. So I didn't understand as an atheist following the scientific path, like how this could have happened. That doesn't make sense. I wasn't, you know, religious. I was hoping in a higher power, but then something responded to me based on my thoughts. So that changed everything in my viewpoint. So in that moment, I was very just like, oh, wow, I don't know anything about what's going on here. So I had kept a very open mind. And then later down the road, even I think later that year, I had some of these things turning back on. I started having clairaudience again to a degree, and that scared me. So I turned that back off. Like, it's fine. But seeing energies, having premonitions, types of things like that. And it was few and far between, I guess, through college and almost non-existent in law school because I was, you know, just so busy on the go. But then when I started researching it again, and I was like, all right, well, I have some time now. I'm trying to understand what I've been experiencing because I know I'm not crazy, but like this is definitely happening to me. So what's going on? And when I started searching more into it and looking more into it, getting more answers, more things kept happening. It was like, oh, you like this? You want more?
So in PMH Atwater's last book, she goes to great lengths to talk about what she calls thought forms, which is, you know, when she has a concept about something, she can see it take shape in the space before her. And her book has, I don't know, 50 or 100 of her drawings of these thought forms. So when you say you had a manifestation, is that what we're talking about? Is
So it was
some sort
actually,
of amorphous thing floating in front of you, or what?
so no, not like that. Actually, I have seen kind of things like that though. But in regards to the manifestation, it was a manifestation of like what I had thought. So I guess in the same way, but I experienced it as an electromagnetic type of glitch.
Hmm.
I was working at an ice cream shop at the time. I was like shift manager, so I was the only one there because it was like a slow day. And we had a Pandora radio. This was like back in 2014. So you can't, put on certain songs. You can't repeat songs on Pandora at this time. And I think it was on, some kind of a light rock station or whatever. And I only turned it on and off. Usually I didn't have access to like songs and channels and stuff really. So it's just like on and off. And I was out front and scooping ice cream and I was crying. I was like not in a great place in my life. And then I was like crying to the universe and I was like, I want to love it here. I really want to love it here. I want it. Like I'm trying. I don't know what else to do. Like I just need some hope. I need something. And in that moment, the next song that came on the radio was my happy song, my feel good song. It was Build Me Up Buttercup by the Foundations. And yeah, right. So that song was sentimental to me because I volunteered a lot with Mothers Against Drunk Driving and we did youth conferences and stuff. So we worked with high school kids that really just like wanted the best for everybody. They wanted the best to like change the world. They wanted to help. And I could feel that energy with them. And we had done a flash mob to the song Build Me Up Buttercup in that conference. So that song, associated that memory for me. So it brought up feelings of happiness and hopefulness. And I was like, wow, like I need a sign to your sign though. I was like, if this could last for an hour straight, I would literally be okay. But, I was like, that can't happen. So I went back to scooping ice cream, crying, whatever. And then the next song, like that song ended and then it came on again and again. And I literally watched the clock. It was like an hour. And I was sitting there just dumbfounded. My mouth was like completely open. I had stopped crying. I was just like, what's going on here? So it was in response. And I mean, I'd worked there like 2 years at that point, and I've never even heard a song repeat once. So there was something going on, and that really propelled my curiosity for the unknown, so to speak.
You are an excellent manifester. Well done.
Evidently.
So speaking of manifesting, how is it that you create your content? Kind of what's your thought process, and how you put it out there?
So my content is primarily like not like a storyboard, but it's essentially following my journey. So I post all the things that I'm researching about. So when I find something really interesting and I think, oh wow, my audience would really also find this interesting, I share that as well. So if you start it all the way from the beginning, it kind of follows like a trail of breadcrumbs, so to speak. One thing leads to another, and it's all connected for sure, like everything. But it started kind of just even dipping my toes into the validity of scientific proof of psychic research, which led me to the CIA declassified documents, which led me to the Monroe Institute, which led me to you. Like it was a whole path. And then it went from trying to prove to myself, I guess, that they're real because nobody ever talks about it, So once I was like, okay, well, I mean, I experience it. There's research. There are professionals that have studied this. This is real. Then it moved on to, well, okay, how does it work now? Because I can see the caveats of why people think it doesn't work because, it doesn't work for you, but it works for you. Why? What's the common denominator and what's the difference? So I guess that's kind of where I've aimed my work more recently.
Yeah. So in order to get 475,000 people, every once in a while, there's a video that just blows up and helps you gain followers. So for you, Which were those, or what was the video that really made the difference?
So the biggest video I've had in that context was definitely one covering the CIA declassified documents. I was
Okay.
talking about actually something from the Gateway program, I believe, or it was something around that, and it was definitely in Project Stargate. And it was the video. I think right now it has 6.5 million views on my page, and it's essentially about how there was research done for stopping pain signals, and you would say the number, like look at the part of your body that's hurting or visualize it, and then say the number 55515, and it would stop the pain signals. Yeah, so that was the one that went most viral.
Wow, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. And then the other ones after that, I would say were probably spoon bending, psychokinesis, also
Really?
found from the CIA declassified documents.
Are you any good at spoon bending?
I am, yeah.
We'll have to have a spoon bending contest one of these days.
I'm
That'll
so
be fun.
interested.
You're on. And so that's kind of the upside of being on TikTok. There are trolls on TikTok. Do you have any that are after you? And how do you deal with them?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, the ups are really great. You know, I do get a really good reach for helping a lot of people, especially people that were in the same, if not similar positions to me, where they were experiencing things, they didn't know how to make sense of it in their reality. So that's the really good part. But you're right, there are definitely trolls. There are definitely people saying less than nice things on videos and stuff like that, especially because it's so quote unquote woo woo. It's so off the main path of what society deems as normal. So it's easy for them to, want to project things at me. So I mean, it's really forced me to get a really solid understanding of who I am and not let that waver based on other people's perceptions of me. And it really does come in with the saying where it's like people's opinions of you has nothing to do with you. It's literally the lens that they're viewing reality through. So I'm actually working on a book kind of related to this, but it's all essentially about the way that you were raised, your belief systems, and all of the variables, so to speak, in that, and how that affects how you view the world. So it's my understanding now, when I see those hurtful comments and stuff, it's like I feel as if my content has just kind of like triggered something inside of them, where, I mean, I don't necessarily think that's a good or a bad thing. It just is, because, sometimes people will resonate and sometimes it'll spark some introspection for some people. Hopefully they understand, where it's coming from and stuff. But a lot of people do just like kind of project like, oh, this is BS or this is whatever. And it's like, okay, well, why do you think that? I experience it. I know it's real. So it's really forced me to get a solid understanding of who I am, what I believe, and really caused me to take a step back and really just see things without judging them, I guess, so to speak. It really gives me an understanding of, why they think that way or say that way, instead of, just scrolling and, not engaging. So,
Yep.
I mean, at least the trolls, like the engaging with the comments and stuff, it does boost my video. So that's cool. But yeah, it definitely is interesting having a lot of people very opinionated with different opinions and viewpoints, which of course we love to engage, but yeah.
So the idea that people come to your videos with their own lens, and of course people who are on this channel, the Afterlife Files, know that events can happen to you in your life that completely changes your lens. And in this case, it would be like a near-death experience, a shared death experience, a spiritually transformative experience where all of a sudden your eyes are open to another worldview, and what you knew before just doesn't apply anymore. Did that happen for you?
So I feel like it's happened several times for me. I feel like I've definitely come to new understandings, and throughout the process, what I've understood most is that I don't understand anything. It's like you can understand things to a point, but I'm always ready to have my view changed. If I can prove myself wrong, or I can find that evidence that makes another viewpoint make more sense for me, I'm ready to drop that and kind of assimilate with this new perception of the world, because I've had so many experiences. So back in the beginning, I was definitely very rigid. I thought I knew, everything about the world and whatever. I thought I was an atheist or whatever. And then I had that experience with the song manifesting for an hour straight. And that was the first thing that really like shattered my little boat that was stable, so to speak. And I was kind of very like, okay, so I was humbled right there. And I was like, all right, well, I know that something beyond my awareness and understanding of reality just took place. So I want to shift my understanding to where that makes sense, because I know that I experienced it, and I wanted to find out how and why that made sense.
Well, now you and I have been having a conversation about um, there's this thing that's happening in your life. Started when you were a kid, but now about the ability to cross dimensions or move into parallel lives. Tell us a little bit about that.
um,
What's that like, Stephanie?
uh,
It's just so cool.
Yeah, it definitely can be cool. Cool is one way to describe it. It is very interesting. Confusing, I guess, would probably be the better way to describe it for me. Especially because when it was happening, there's no like guidebook. It's not like, hey, you are now entering a parallel universe. There's no guide showing you that. There's no like, hey, you are now in, a different version of you. It's very confusing, because what happens would be like when I would wake up, like I would be in another physical version of me. Like I would be in a physical body. I could literally, tangible, everything is tangible. I could feel it. Everything around me is solid as is in this reality. And it was very, very, very hard to differentiate when I was in a different reality where I shouldn't have been. Because everything feels so physical. You don't think to question it until you see something that doesn't add up. And everything is pretty similar from the realities that I had been in, where it was only, a couple details changed, and I was very confused about those details. But then I kind of, after enough times of this happening, I understood, oh, I'm literally in a different version of me. And it was one of those things, kind of the same way I was experiencing something I didn't yet understand, so I wanted to understand. So the same way it happened with the manifestation of the song, I experienced it, but I didn't know why or how or what that meant. So I almost followed the breadcrumb trail, so to speak, where this is happening to me, and I know what I experienced, and it was very physical. It was like kind of scary because I didn't know that I was there. I didn't know that I wasn't back here in my physical body. So it was a process of, I guess, trying to understand what was happening. So I came across different books like Parallel Worlds by Michio Kaku, co-founder of string theory. And he talks about a lot of the same stuff that I had experienced. So that was very, very interesting for me. And then working with an Akashic Records soul blueprint realignment practitioner. I'm also getting certified in that now because the work we did together was so profound for my life. I want to be able to help other people with that as well. But yeah, essentially we worked with the Akashic Records, and it did show that there was like a bleed over from a parallel life of mine coming into this one. So we had fixed that with like the Akashic Records and everything. And I haven't had an experience that vivid sense, but I definitely have awareness of it in my dreams and everything.
So when you move over into a parallel universe, what's the transition like?
So every single time it was like I was being pulled into the astral realm, like I was being astrally projected, or if you're, I'm sure your group is aware
Feeling
of
like
that.
you're going out of body. Yeah.
Going out of body. Yeah. And it was that sensation where I would force myself to wake up. And I wasn't doing it intentionally to go to a parallel universe. I just really didn't want to go astral at that point. So when I was being pulled into the astral and I would force it to stop, I would be like, no, I'm waking up. And when I would do that is when I would shift into a different version of me. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you have a sense for why this was happening to you?
So I really don't, honestly. I really, really don't know why this has been going on or why I'm so connected with it. One example, I mean, I guess from the soul blueprint realignment practitioner I worked with, she had said that it was due to an archetypal block in a different timeline of me. I still, begs the question, I guess, like what's going on with how did that even occur? What's the parallel bleed over, like why, and all of that. Still have a lot of questions there, but it was happening. And the very first time that I became aware of it, I was actually in waking state. I actually wasn't, astrally projected. I wasn't, sleeping or any hypnagogic state. It was like waking state. And I was having sensations. I had actually just posted a video of this on my TikTok, but I was having sensations of like really bad stomach pain. Like I was concerned I was pregnant. Like I had all these feelings. And then when I went to the doctor, there was absolutely nothing wrong. I was completely normal. There was no answer for why I was feeling these pains or anything. And then 2 months later, I get pulled astral and I wake up again in a physical version of me. And I was in a hospital type setting. I had these pains again. It was weird. And then that's when I had fixed it with the Akashic records so that this wouldn't happen anymore. And it didn't until I worked with a mutual of mine on TikTok who talks about quantum hypnosis and things like that. And she was like, I think that version of you was trying to show you something. So when she had instructed me how to connect with that version of myself and, tap back in to see what I was, supposed to see or understand, that version of me was still with my ex when, the same ex that I was with when that the pain happened in waking state. And I had a baby like with that ex, like we were together, we were like, things were very different. It was like the timelines went like this. So I experienced that and it was really, really weird.
Yes, because clearly there's no baby at your side right now.
No, there's not. Nope. Nope. And it was so weird when I was like so adamant and the pains were so physical and real. Like I had never felt anything like that before. And then the doctors were like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, I know I'm in pain, but there's no answer. So I guess seeing all of that, it made it make sense finally.
That's quite a bleed over. Wow.
Yeah, it was a harsh one.
So what else have you learned having jumped these dimensions? Yeah, what have you learned about yourself or, lives of why is this organized this way?
So that part I haven't really gotten to an understanding of yet as to why there's different timelines. I'm wondering if it's different like iterations of what's the best, for your soul at this point. If it's like different layers, so to speak, or, I haven't really gotten there yet, different timelines. I don't know. But what I have learned from, I guess, seeing that version of me and all of the experiences I've had is that once again, we don't know as much as like we think we know. When I'm seeing all these things, I have more questions, but I had gotten to an understanding that, we are I mean, at least I have been pulled astral in the beginning and everything, and it's always been to help. So my understanding is that these experiences and the things I've been shown in the astral have later come to put together parts of my theory, so to speak. So I'm working on a theory right now, and it's stemming from something I was shown in the astral, but I didn't even know it. Like, I didn't know that what I was shown in the astral here later connected here. I took a different path because I saw this and I was like, okay, what is that supposed to mean? And then I got there by accident and I pieced it together and I was like, oh. So I think, you know, if you're open to it, there are helpers in these different realms and everything, different dimensions, whatever you want to call them. And I think that I had experienced that so that I could correct the bleed over, because I had experienced all of these things, and experiencing that led me to the soul blueprint realignment practitioner, which I'm now studying. But she was able to recorrect my timeline so that there wasn't this bleed over and there was no archetypal block, and it essentially got me back on track, so to speak. So
Okay.
yeah, I think it's like to help. I don't know.
So this idea of being able to access parallel timelines, um, do you consider that an accident, or it shouldn't happen, or is this a place to explore? And what's your sense of it now?
Um, so part of me wants to be like, yes, it was really cool. It is really cool to see how, you know, life could have played out differently. And the only way I can view that is like a choose your own adventure book. And I feel like there was a reason when I was a kid, I would read the book and make the choices, but then I would go back and be like, if I did this, you know, how does this affect my life? I would always do that. So I think it kind of makes sense as to why now I find it so interesting to like peep into these versions of me. Um, and I have a mutual on TikTok. Her name is also Stephanie, weirdly enough, but she experiences pretty similar things where she also goes into different versions of herself in different universes, X, Y, and Z. And she gets like real answers from the people she's around, and things are different in all of those timelines. But her story had connected another part of the theory for me. So I do really think it's kind of a matter of each and every choice we make does bring about a new world or something. And I think our vibration is what sustains us in that energy. Otherwise we like shift to, you know, somewhere else where we would have gone back and hopped on another timeline of something.
I know that during a life review, that the divine being that supports us during that process as we're reviewing our lives, um, has the ability to, you know, stop the action. And if you want to replay a scene, you can choose another timeline. Like, oh, instead of being a jerk, I'm being a nice person, and then see how that plays out in your life. So this ties directly to the research that's in near-death experiences, and in particular in the life review process. So nicely done.
Thank you. I'm like, so what's going on though with that? Like, why am I seeing that in my conscious, like, everyday type of thing when in reality, that's like a life review step. I'm like, am
I
I in my life review?
Well, actually, I'm beginning to believe that we have the ability to. All of it becomes part of the human record, right? Each timeline, and so we as a species get to understand ourselves in more fully, and we get the chance to um, realize, also from a human perspective, you know, the difference that our choices make. And vibrationally, what is that? How does that affect you? How does it affect you if I do it this way? So um, you just happen to have stumbled upon a portal where you can, you know, you're in that vibratory state that is um, the life review, and have access to this. So I want you to, write me the manual so I can help teach it to people.
Like we will talk about this. I'm down to partner with this because I would love to work with people who either experience this or are interested in experiencing this because I know I'm not the only one. I know there are more people that are either interested or have experienced this. So I would love to get down to the formula, so to speak, of how and why that works.
Love it. So you mentioned that you're putting together a theory of how the world works. Um, do you want to explain that, or do you want to save that for a separate video?
So I definitely will talk about that briefly. I am still trying to figure out how to, I guess, publish it, maybe in like a book or something, because I am trying to piece it together with other scientists that have actually, theorized this from like a quantum perspective and piece it together with my, phenomenology of like my experience of what I've actually experienced, because they do line up pretty well with what I've read so far, which I find very interesting. But essentially, my theory of reality and like how it works and everything is stemming from my glitches in the matrix, so to speak, like the times that, reality didn't line up to exactly what we were told reality lined up to, because then I can piece together how this connects here and this connects here and like how it makes a whole puzzle. So I've done very, very well with that actually. And I didn't even know what I was doing at first. And it just kind of like all stumbled into my lap. And I was like, oh, I see it now. It makes sense now. Because at first it didn't. But basically I'm using my experiences as like case studies, so to speak.
Sure.
And working backwards to figure out what the common denominator is between all of the instances that I've had that have, glitched the matrix. So essentially, from having all of these experiences with the glitches in the matrix, and, I'm trying to piece together how it all makes sense from, my perspective, but also somebody who doesn't experience these things, because they are in fact coexisting. And I do think that everybody has the potentiality to experience what I've been experiencing, but there's some reason, some part of a formula, so to speak, as to why they're not. So I'm trying to understand, I guess, the connection between the people that do experience and the people that don't, as well as kind of what the formula is, so to speak, as to how to access these things, how to access the paranormal. And I've gotten decently far, considering I didn't really know what was going on like a year ago. This is all pretty new and pretty emergent, but time is like a weird thing because I feel like I've been working on this for a while now. But it does kind of, I have come up with like a theory as to how, some people will experience it and other people won't. And we all do, in fact, live in the same like collective reality. It's all like overlapping, and it's like how we talked about these different timelines, where you can be in a timeline where you're not a jerk, or you can be in this, or, where you're happy and nice. And there's different paths that people can take, essentially, like where you might not see it as like you having the ability and you having the choice for that, so to speak, but you do. And when you're able to kind of see it from that bigger perspective of seeing how the whole picture fits together, because like I mentioned in the beginning, I didn't know what was going on either. I was like, I'm experiencing this and this, but I don't know how it makes sense. So my understanding is that if you can almost remove yourself from the programming of, what you were taught to believe, what you were taught to think, what you were, shown as like a reaction and this kind of trauma response. And if you can kind of get past all of that, then you regain control.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We find that so much in teaching meditation, that it's about the mental mindset. When you go in and, you believe you can, you can. If you can't, well, that's what happens too. So it's, that ability to be open to whatever comes, and the ability to say, I am mystified by this, but I, can try to make sense of it later. Yeah, all of that.
Yeah, I feel like
It
the common denominator really is your belief and
is
like
your belief system.
yeah,
Well, you
and your
touched on
lens.
that early in our interview. You were talking about, when you grow up, well, that's how you make sense of the physical world because of what your parents taught you and what your community taught you. And then events happen outside of that. And it totally changes your lens. And you're going, oh, what I learned wasn't the whole truth. It was part of the truth, but not the whole thing. And I have a feeling that's what it's like here as we discover paranormal abilities. We go, oh, wow, I really can determine, I can change my reality to play Buttercup for an hour straight. How does that work?
So my theory with that is still like the how you mentioned when we do the life review, there's this divine being. I think that there are so many like divine helpers and beings, your higher self, your spirit guides, your passed on loved ones. Like I think they are all in on it. I think this is like they're all in on it and they're all helping pull the strings of, the set, so to speak. Like I'm pretty sure it's like we want this, so we need to become a vibratory match for that. And then they will, conspire with us, with the universe, and like make it happen.
Yeah, it's time for Stephanie to have this experience.
Yeah.
Full string number 3.
Literally, it's like she's not getting it yet. Let's show her.
Love it. So, Stephanie, we're bumping up against our time constraint. How can people follow you on TikTok and get to know you better?
Thank you very much for bringing that up. So my TikTok channel is Stephanie Amber 07 with a PH. And then you can just like type that in on TikTok and you would find my account. And then I have all these videos and I have playlists and everything. And I'm getting more involved in YouTube as well. And my YouTube channel is through that link as well. And it's just Spirituality with Steph. I do have like a podcast that I'm also trying to get more involved with again. And also Spirituality with Steph on, Spotify, Apple, all the streaming platforms. And yeah, I do post some stories and everything on Instagram as well, which is also in that link conglomeration. So it's Steph_Forlini.
All right. And you have a website.
Yes, I do have a website and it's stephanieforlini.com. I do like readings and I'm getting more into like holistic healing and things like that, working with herbs and mugwort is one of the big ones for, lucid dreaming, astral projection. And yeah, that's my website.
Well, thank you, Stephanie. This has been a terrific day. So I really appreciate you being here with us. And for those of you that are watching, stick around for a little bit because I've got a couple of comments I think you're going to find interesting.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me. This has been really awesome, and I'm glad we could connect and discuss all of this.
Okay, Stephanie, spoon bending challenge accepted. Here's some that I've done. Notice that nice curve here? How about this guy? Really twisted, nice and tight in the center. And I mean, this stuff isn't like you find at a thrift store or something. This is heavy duty. And do you think I'm limited to just spoons? Here we go. Check out that fork. Got a nice bend there. The tines are all different directions. You ready to take me on, Stephanie? How about anybody else out there? You want to join in? You are more than welcome. I found both parts of this interview fascinating. Stephanie as influencer, Stephanie as dimension hopper. She has a lot to teach us. And I think there is more to the story. Just to be clear, I'm about to give you my viewpoint, but that's why you watch the Afterlife Files, to gain perspective by using more than one lens with which to view this rich information. How does Stephanie's tale fit into the afterlife files? Her testimony of skipping dimensions and inhabiting herself in another timeline fits very neatly into what near-death experiencers report about what happens to them during their life review. You may remember that during a life review, you get the opportunity to relive your life in infinite detail from 3 perspectives: yourself, the other in the scene, and the omniscient perspective, or God's viewpoint, if you like. As you are reviewing your life from your perspective, you have the ability to speed it up or slow the action down, even come to a complete stop if you want. With the help of the divine being that's loving you through this experience, you have the opportunity to redo a scene from your life. For example, take me. I was a jerk, but now I can redo it and be a nice person. I live out that reformed me in that encounter with every detail and every sensation. Also, like the other person in the scene, and how that new me instigated a new set of reactions from friends, from family, from communities on out. I think that maybe what's happening is that the divine being is placing you or creating you in another timeline, just like what is happening to Stephanie. The similarities are just too striking to ignore. My hope is that Stephanie doesn't put the brakes on her ability to jump dimensions just because it's confusing. I think humanity could benefit greatly with the knowledge and expertise to do what she is doing and is just starting to explore. My curiosity has been piqued with how could we teach this skill to anyone willing to put in the time and effort? What do you think? I hope that videos such as this can give you some insight on what near-death and shared-death experiencers and non-physical world explorers like Stephanie discover about the afterlife, the nature of consciousness, and how to live your life more fully. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and comment. And comment specifically on whether you'd like to learn Stephanie's skill. You can find the Afterlife Files on all podcast streaming apps: Apple, Google, Spotify, Audible, the lot. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, or pay us a visit at neardeathmeditations.com. I'll repeat that, neardeathmeditations.com. Bye now.